This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, a weekly recap of your Philadelphia Eagles. Broadcasting live from Hard Rock Cafe in Philadelphia, tonight's show is brought to you by Penn Community Bank, Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia, Independence Blue Cross, The Capitol Grill, Rob's Automotive and Collision, and BCWSA. We now go live to the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Center City, Philadelphia for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And welcome, everybody, to our Zoom. Our last show on Zoom will be back at the Hard Rock next Monday, the 26th of December. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, all good things to everybody. This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. I'm Paul Jolovitz. Along with me is Paul Domowitch. Our guest tonight, former Eagles, former Stars tight end, publisher of a couple local magazines, Mr. Ken Dunek. First, Domo, I say hello, but let me preview with this. There are two things going on in the world now. The world is at war. Every country in the world declared war on each other today. But more important to Philadelphians, Jalen Hurts looks like he's going to miss the Dallas game, huh?
Yeah, it seems that way. Sprained throwing shoulder. It doesn't make any sense to put him out there hurt. You want to get him healthy, completely healthy by the time the playoffs start. So, I would be surprised if we see him again in the regular season at all.
And for those of you who think gambling is meaningless, this really a lot of people got the clue. Obviously, Adam Schefter and others have tweeted it now, but the line went from Dallas 1 to Dallas 6-point favorites. That usually doesn't happen for any other reason than a quarterback injury. We'll talk a lot more about that, obviously, and a lot of stuff in our show. Ken Dunek, we welcome you. How are you doing?
Guys, great to be with you. Nothing an old jock likes to do more than talk about football in himself, so I'm here for you.
Well, you were with the Eagles and the Stars back in the 80s. You played for a couple other teams, too, the Giants and the Ravens. Am I correct?
Giants and Colts, very briefly. Only a few weeks till they realized I wasn't that good, and then they shipped me off to the next team.
So I wanted to start you off. You played basketball at Memphis State, now University of Memphis, where Kenny Gainwell is from, and then became a football player in your senior year. Thought you had a better shot to get to the pros, I guess. But Memphis State, a little before your time, was in the national championship game in 1973 with Larry Keenan, Larry Finch, those guys.
That's right.
How hard was it? I mean, being a basketball player there was no easy feat. Talk about your two-sport career, if you could.
Well, I didn't play high school football at all. I was a basketball player. I played some Pop Warner football. I was going to play in high school. I had a minor knee injury my freshman year, and then I progressed so much in basketball. The basketball coach kind of persuaded me not to play football. So I was happy as a basketball player. I used to sit at the fence and watch football practice and drink beer and laugh at those fools running around the track in the hot weather. And little did I know I'd be doing it on a big level at Dick Vermeil's training camps. But funny. I went to junior college for 2 years at the Duke of Kentucky. I transferred to Memphis. The coach told me I was going to play a major part in the team, and I didn't. So I was unhappy. I was maybe looking to transfer. I only had 1 year left, and I was outside the athletic dorm throwing a football around with a buddy, and the tight ends coach saw me and invited me over to the football office. He asked me to run a 40. I'd never run a 40 before, and I ran a 4.6 40. I was 6'6", 235. I ran a 4.6 40. His eyes almost popped.
No warm up, just cold right there.
Yeah, I don't even know if I got into a stance. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. He said run, so I ran 40 yards, and then they brought the head coach, Richard Williamson, in to see it. And Richard was kind of a grizzled old guy. He played wide receiver at Alabama under Bear Bryant. And, I ran the same time and caught every ball. And they decided to sign me to a scholarship. I knew I didn't have any kind of a future in basketball.
Weren't you already on a scholarship?
As a 6'6" white post player.
But didn't you have
I was already on scholarship, but Wayne Yates, the coach, couldn't wait to get me off of his basketball scholarship and onto the football scholarship to free up some money. So I played relatively well. I actually got a 5th year of eligibility for switching sports, and I played football and basketball my 5th year at Memphis, and then When it came time to go to the NFL, I had 3 free agent offers from the Saints, Eagles, and Rams, and I chose the Eagles because literally I thought it would look better getting cut from the best team. I figured if the Eagles cut me, the Saints might take a shot at me. If the Saints cut me, who were bad back then, my career would have been over before it started. So went to camp in 1980 and then caught a break and wound up making the team there.
All right, we'll talk about the Saints in the future. Obviously, the Saints winning yesterday hurts the Eagles. We want them to lose every week, Domo, because of the draft pick. But you just started covering the Eagles when Ken Dunek came along. Give us a scouting report on this fine tight end.
Well, actually, I didn't know Ken until we met when he was when I was covering the Stars, their first season in '83, because I didn't start covering the Eagles till '84. So yeah, so that's when we met. Those were great years. I mean, that was the best team I ever. I was young; they were young. Access was great. They were a winning team. So I mean, covering the Stars for those years was terrific, and as I'm sure Ken will tell you how much fun it was playing for him.
Ken, there were a couple of championship games. How'd you get from the Eagles to the Stars?
Well, I was released from the Eagles in '81, and again, I briefly with the Colts and Giants in '82, and then I was actually teaching tennis at Cherry Hill Racket Courts, and Carl Peterson came in with his daughter for a tennis lesson, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm teaching tennis until I find my next gig." And he said, "You want to try the USFL?" He did not. He knew how fast I was. So I said, well, I might be interested. I said, "How much are you paying?" He goes, "I'll pay you the same as you made with the Eagles." And I said, "Well, hand me the paper." I mean, wasn't that much money back then. I think my base salary with the Eagles was about 35 to 40,000, but that was the market back then. And listen, Paul knows, he was there every step of the way. The Stars were a breath of fresh air. It was a combination of guys like myself, Chuck Fusina, Sam Mills, Scott Fitzke, John Bunning, who were looking for a chance to extend their football careers. And then we added the mix of rookies like Kelvin Bryant and Irv Eatman and Sean Landetta and William Fuller. We just had a great roster, and it was a great football team. Anybody that says that the Stars would have been competitive in the NFL doesn't know what they're talking about, because we had all NFL players. Almost every significant player on the Stars played for an NFL roster. So we were a good team. We were competitive, and we appreciated the opportunity. I think that was the secret to the Stars' success.
All right, Ken, we're going to fill in the gaps during the show and talk a lot of Eagles, but let me kind of fast forward to the bracket of your career. You're now the publisher of Philly Man and Jersey Man magazines, living in South Jersey. I'm going to take a wild guess here. Let's see if it's right. You were doing something somewhere, and the publisher of those magazines came up and said, "Would you like to publish a magazine?" You seem to be the beneficiary of good fortune very often. Was it that again, or how'd you get into writing?
Absolutely not, Paul. It's a good guess. Paul, you're a good handicapper, but that was a bad miss on your part. No, I was a broadcast journalism major in college, and never had the chance to use it. When I retired from football, my wife blessed me with triplet daughters in 1989. So I had to make a lot of money, and I had to make it quickly. So I went into private business. I actually started working for Irv Kozlov, the Roosevelt paper, the old Sixers owner. And that was a Miles Tannenbaum, the Stars owner connection, introduced me to Ted Kozlov, who brought me into his company. I did that for 6 years, and I worked in that industry for about 30 years. But what drove me to start the magazine, you talk about the serendipitous nature of life, was my wife, Terry, was critically injured in a car accident in 2008. And she was hospitalized for about 3 months. It was touch and go there for a while. And I couldn't sleep at night. I was worried about her. And I'd done some public speaking in the past, and people said, you have a lot of great stories. You should write a book. So that's what I did. I stayed up at night and wrote a book, sent it to a publisher. It got published. And then a local reporter for SJ Magazine, I believe, read the book and liked it, and actually approached me with the idea of doing a men's magazine. So I get credit for creating this Jersey Man, Philly Man empire, and it wasn't even my idea, which I will take full credit for.
Well, that's tremendous. I mean, we'll talk more about that throughout the show. We got to get to the Eagles, though, and you have an extensive biography in many different things, Ken. Man for all seasons. Damo, you're a man for all seasons as well. Football season, previewing the Dallas game, Micah Parsons' comments around the NFL. We might have seen the dumbest play ever yesterday. We'll get to all that. But the Eagles beat the Bears 25-20. I'm going to say something to you and get your reaction to it, Damo. I've bet on NFL games for years. I'm not going to lie about it. Not very many, but I think from the gambling perspective a lot. And I think people that think from that perspective are more accurate or see football better than people who just look at X's and O's. I said yesterday, I said many times last week, the Eagles are going to play flat this week. Sandwich game in between the Giants and the Cowboys. Picasso, not every Picasso painting sold at auction, if you know what I mean. Not everybody wakes up with a good day every day. The mark of a good team is to win when you're not at your best, and the Eagles did yesterday. Take that statement however you like, and what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles knew that Chicago was better than their record. I mean, they watched the film last week and certainly knew that. But it's one thing to think that. It's another to go out there in 3-degree wind chill and try to perform your best against that team when you've got Dallas a week away. So I mean, those all factored in. But you're right. Good teams find a way to eke out wins when they're not at their best, and that's what they did yesterday. I mean, that wasn't Jalen's best game, and yet
probably his worst.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not talking about hold your nose. I mean, he threw for 300 plus yards and ran for 3 touchdowns. So he found ways to exploit their defense. Same with a lot of other guys. I mean, they relied on their pass rush. So you're right, though. They weren't at their best, but they found a way to win.
Ken, what does it say to you that when your quarterback runs for 3 touchdowns, one short of Cam Newton's NFL record, 14, by the way, Jalen Hurts has more rushing touchdowns than anybody in football the last 2 years, and throws for 300 yards, and people are talking about this MVP candidate not having a good game because of 2 picks, first time this year. What does that say about Jalen Hurts to you?
Well, what it says about me is how well he's played previously this season. I mean, I thought he made a couple questionable decisions early and they resulted in some picks. But I also thought Nick Sirianni was a little bit off because in those cold and windy conditions, I really expected them to hand the ball off more to Miles Sanders because it's difficult to pass in that environment. And they wanted to throw it, and eventually they succeeded. But I thought that might have added to it. Anyone that hasn't played in a cold and windy stadium really doesn't realize how difficult that is. And the glare of that field and the sunshine, I thought was difficult for the receivers. So, but they rallied. What most character teams do, like the Eagles are, is they rallied, they figured it out, and they got a win on the road, which is always difficult to do.
Damo, a certain reporter that I know that used to work for the Daily News, wears glasses and a green shirt on a lot of Mondays, tweeted, "Where's Miles Sanders in the second quarter?" I don't remember your exact tweet, but I retweeted it. Didn't get the ball in the first 5 series. Shane Steichen, Ken talking about the play callers, Nick and Shane especially. Miles Sanders eventually got the ball, but first quarter was not the Eagles' finest hour of play calling. That's for sure, and I think you second that.
Yeah, I mean, he had three carries in the first half, which was really puzzling. I mentioned to somebody this morning that I thought, I think they were guilty of a little bit of play calling arrogance there. I mean, they know how good they are offensively. Chicago was playing man on their, on Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, and they were just going to, they threw. I think I counted 14 deep balls yesterday. I mean, which is the most by far by Jalen this year, because they were just going to light it up as long as they covered him one-on-one. Even though, like you said, I mean, Miles 144 yards last week, 3-degree wind chill. I mean, it made perfect sense to run the ball, and yet it took them, the better half of 3 quarters before it dawned on them.
AJ had a great game. Devontae had a great game. They extended the field. Chicago was inside leverage. They threw outside a lot, eventually got the job done. And we talked about already what it's like. You got to win when you're not at your best, when you don't have your A game. And the Eagles did that. Obviously, Dallas, we're going to talk about a lot about that this week. But real quick, before we take a break, Damo, the Micah Parsons comments, Richter scale level 1 to 10. How much will they play in this game? Because I always think, and Ken can comment on this too, if you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, if you're playing your arch rival, and you're not ready for that game already, if there's room for you to get more intense, something's wrong with you. the Micah Parsons comments? How'd they hit you?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give him I'd say I'd give him a 2. I mean, I was kind of surprised that, I mean, I know why radio talk show hosts make big deals about stuff like that. You know, I heard the comments. I mean, I didn't think he was trying to call Jalen out. I didn't think he was trying to insult him. You know, you can find meaning like that in there, but I thought it was a much ado about nothing.
As Shakespeare would say, and that's a good way to lead into our first break. We don't have Shakespeare here today, but we do have Paul Domowitch, former Eagles tight end Ken Dunek. This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. Normally we're at the Hard Rock Cafe where they have happy hour every Monday to Friday from 5 to 7 with $1 off Bud Lights, Sam Adams and Blue Moon Drafts, $6 House Chardonnay and Merlot. You can get Smirnoff and Cruz and rum singles for $5, $7 for doubles. And at Hard Rock, live entertainment abounds every Wednesday. Enjoy some great food and our food and drink specials, happy hour drink specials, every Wednesday, 5 to 7. We'll be there next week, and we'll be back with the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff right after this. Stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe has it all. Great food takes center stage as they tune up your visit with free live music every Friday night at 6. Sponsored by Conshohocken Brewing Company. See Philly's best rocking the main stage while you enjoy Hard Rock favorites right here in Center City. Pickup, delivery, and catering available. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And welcome back to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show here on WBCB. You can also watch us on Facebook Live and Friday Night Live here at the Hard Rock. Live music every Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. with no cover. The best local artists on the main stage every week. Make your reservations. We're obviously not here at the Hard Rock on Zoom this week. We'll be back at the Hard Rock next week. Undergoing some renovations. Should be a fabulous time next week. Paul Domowitch, former Eagle tight end Ken Dunek are with us. Ken, I like to ask offbeat questions that really aren't questions, but you'll get this and understand it right away. The next question for you is simply 2 words. Dick Vermeil. Time's yours.
I only get 2 words.
Dick Vermeil. What?
That's hard to characterize.
No, you get
say
more than 2 words.
Oh, okay.
So you get.
You have 2. Okay, you gave me 2. I get.
Yeah.
Well, listen. I will say this. Other than my father, he's the most important male figure in my life. You know, I was so green as a rookie going to that Eagles camp, and what happened was Keith Kreftley separated his shoulder in the first series of downs at Buffalo, and Spagnuolo didn't make the trip. So I was now the starting tight end for the Eagles for the rest of that Buffalo game and the Jets game. And, you know, he understood that I was out of my element, but he also saw the potential. So, you know, back then they stashed players on injured reserve. It was almost like the practice squad, and then they would bring you back and forth. And that's what he did with me. And, you know, I got some experience. I got an NFC championship ring out of the deal. And then, of course, went on to win a couple more championships with the Stars. I got to make my living playing football for 6 years. So he's just a man, a loyalty, character. He's been really good to me over the years. He's included me on things, Paul, that it's hard to believe. For example, when he was inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame ceremony. Now I get it. I'm one of the, a handful of guys that have stayed in the area. But he invited me to be his guest on the field for his Hall of Fame ceremony. And it was, Jaworski, Berge, Carmichael, and me. I mean, it's like, where's Waldo? Who doesn't belong in this picture, right? And when Jim Gallagher and invited me, I said, Jimmy, this is a prank, right? I said, why does he want me there? He goes, you were part of that Super Bowl team. He wants you there. So I went to Canton. I mean, he's included me on so much great stuff over the years. He's an amazing man.
It's loyalty, Damo, and Dick Vermeil is all about loyalty. We know about that. And loyalty to a position. Ken Dunek was a tight end. The Eagles have Dallas Goedert. He started his 21-day window last week that he can come back off injured reserve. A lot of people thought he'd play yesterday. He did not. Should play next week in Dallas. How important is Dallas Goedert? What did the Eagles miss yesterday and in the couple weeks previous without Dallas Goedert?
Well, I mean, they miss one of the most unique tight ends in the league, a guy that can block as well as he can catch the ball. He certainly adds a dimension to that passing game with those two guys on the outside that makes them even more dangerous than they are. But it's been amazing with him gone. I mean, like last week when they rushed for 253 yards or something like that. I mean, those two guys, Stoll and the rookie Calcaterra, both.
And Jackson yesterday too.
Yeah, I mean, both in 12 personnel did a great job of blocking. I mean, but I think we'll see Dallas this week, and that'll be it. Because I don't think we're going to see much of. We're certainly not going to see any of Jalen probably for the rest of the regular season. But I think after Sunday, I'd be surprised if we see much of any of the regular starters in the final two games.
All right, Ken. Eagles are now a magic number of 1 with Dallas's loss to Jacksonville yesterday. It was fun to watch for all Eagle fans. Any combination of 1 Eagle win, 1 Dallas loss, Eagles win the division. Here's a little bit of a conundrum for you on Sunday. Dallas will not play against Dallas, or will play against Dallas, and a quarterback will be missing, but it won't be Dak Prescott. He'll be back, but Jalen Hurts will be out. Taking all that together and unscrambling it in your mind, what do you see in the Eagles-Cowboys game on Saturday? Do the Eagles win this game with Gardner Minshew? Give me a couple tips one way or the other.
I like the Eagles. Listen, I'd rather have Jalen Hurts in the lineup, but Minshew is a guy who's been a starter in the league. He's had some success. He's had success here. I think he won a game or two when Jalen was out last year for us. Yep. So he's certainly capable. I think there's so many weapons on the Eagles offense that, if the coaching staff can get him to manage the game properly, somebody's going to be open. He's fully capable of delivering the football. And a lot of times, when your guy goes down, teams will rally around the second guy. So I know, Jolly, you like to place a bet every once in a while because I follow you on all the social media, and you're pretty good, by the way. I got to tell you something. Thank you. I do like the Eagles plus the 6 points this week, even with Minshew at the helm.
All right, Damo. Hope you had Argentina yesterday. Told everybody to bet Argentina. They won probably the greatest World Cup final ever, but they're not in the NFL, so we'll stick to that for now. Gardner Minshew, obviously people are yelling about Jalen Hurts running. He got hurt in the third quarter yesterday on a run. You can get hurt crossing the street. You can get hurt in the pocket. Most quarterbacks do. We'll obviously see less quarterback runs, but Minshew's here for a reason. Ken's right. He won as a starter a couple times last year. What does the offense lack without him? And when Jalen Hurts comes back, whenever it is, do you think Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni treat him with kids' gloves and he runs less because that takes a little bit of him away and his DNA?
Yeah, the first question regarding Minshew, I mean, he's certainly not Jalen Hurts, either as a passer or as a runner, but he's a capable quarterback, like Ken said. He's going to be a free agent after the season. He's a guy with starting experience, played well when he got a chance to start in Jacksonville. He's got something to prove here because he's going to go on the market. He won't be back, and he knows, he plays well on Sunday. It's going to increase his his leverage when he becomes a free agent in March. So he's got a lot go. This is an important game for him. He knows this offense well. I have no concern that you'd be worried with, like a lot of teams, with their backup in there. I think that they'll rely on the running game more, but they'll run the RPOs like they've been doing. He'll probably put up good numbers because he did last year too. And like I said, this is a guy with a lot of starting experience.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The second question regarding Jalen, I do not think they'll treat him like with kid gloves when he gets back. I mean, I'm assuming he's not going to be playing again until the playoffs. And the last thing you want to do, the reason he's an MVP candidate is because of what he can do both with his legs and his arm. Last thing you want to do is take part of that away. He's got a full back body. He can handle himself. He sprained his shoulder because, the guy intentionally tried to hurt him, fell on him. It wasn't a penalty because he was a runner, but the aim of what he did was clear. So when Jalen comes back, I expect him to run just as much as ever, be just as aggressive as ever.
All right, guys, a lot of people in Philadelphia are going to be talking about Jalen never left the game yesterday. Will he come back to the playoffs? Will the team take the last 2 weeks off? Will Nick play anybody? Not worrying about that right now, just the Dallas game and the like, and Jalen's future thereafter. How much does it make your hearts warm tonight when Jalen's out? He did play through the wire. He has a sprained shoulder. He completed a pass to A.J. Brown to basically ice the game. And obviously stiffened up afterwards. Adrenaline's a factor. Damo, does that ease your mind in any way, or is that just adrenaline and the way it is?
He's as tough as nails. So I wasn't surprised that he played with a sprained shoulder. I think he was able to throw. There was just some pain with it. It wasn't dislocated. We're not talking about a guy that, was crying out in pain, when he lifted his arm, but the best thing they can do for him right now. And another thing is, if this were a playoff game, my guess is he'd play this week, but it's not. Neither is the week after or the week after that. You want him completely healthy when they start playing games that matter again.
Yeah, Ken, the 1 seed is the thing that's up for grabs. Only one bye. You want to be the 1 seed. You played professional football. At this time of year, usually week 14, week 15, with rare exceptions on any team, there's guys who are hurt and there's guys who are injured. If you're not hurt, you really haven't played. What's the difference to you between hurt and injured? And did he ever have to play through a significant injury?
Well, yeah, of course. Everybody that plays major college football or any level of football, really, and certainly in the pros, you have to fight through the nicks and the bumps. I've played through calf strains, tweaked hamstrings, a sprained ligament in my knee. I finished the game. But you're right. Adrenaline does take over. And it doesn't surprise me that a guy like Jalen Hurts got it through that performance. By the way, what's not to like about Jalen Hurts? He's gotten better as a passer. He's gotten better in reading the defenses. He's a humble guy. He shows leadership qualities. He runs the football. He's tough as nails. When you're drawing up the blueprint for a quarterback, I think Jalen Hurts has to look a little bit like what you want in a leader and a quarterback. And, it doesn't surprise me that he finished the game hurt. I just love the guy.
Damo, what do you think about the statement that I made earlier in the season and other people made as well? You might have made the same thing on the 33rdteam.com, and we'll get to your power rankings in a second. But a lot of people, there's tangibles and intangibles. You know what the tangibles are. You're wondering if he has leadership ability or cadence in the locker room, how hard he's going to work. Jalen Hurts last year, everybody thinks he's got every intangible in the world, but how far can he throw a football? What can he do? And I always said he's going to reach his ceiling. The question is, what will his ceiling be? He's a humble kid. He seems to have reached his ceiling this year. Obviously, he's going to get better and improve like anybody would, but does that part of him astound you? The intangibles being the given and the tangibles being the variable here?
I'm going to disagree with you there, Jolly.
What?
I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet.
I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet either. He's just I didn't state that correctly. He's gotten so much better. He'll continue to get better. More about the tangibles than the intangibles.
The first year, that his rookie season when he took over the last 4 games when Carson was playing so bad and they were out of it. You know, that was stunning to me to watch veterans follow him, talk about him. I mean, this is a guy, you know, keep in mind, this was the COVID season when most of these guys had no contact with each other for the most part. I mean, they held meetings in separate rooms. Everything was Zoom. They spent very little time together in the locker room. And yet when he became the starter in those last 4 games, it was like, you know, we got our leader. You know, I mean, granted, the option was Carson Wentz, who was anything but I mean, that told me a lot right there about Jalen. You know, I think there's just something, and Ken probably would agree with this. There's just something about coaches' kids. They have a special quality of not only their work ethic and they're never satisfied with how good they are, but you know, I think some of the best leaders are also guys that were coaches' kids, and that's what Jalen was. And like Ken said earlier, I mean, you draw a picture of a leader. This guy is it.
Ken, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think as a coach's kid, you understand the work that goes into being a good player. You also have a reverence for the game, and your father would have made you understand that. You know, it's a special thing to be able to play pro football. At the NFL level, or even, you know, the USFL was really much more than a developmental league back then. I really, like I said before, I thought it was NFL quality football. But when you play at that level, you're lucky to be there. And I remember Coach Mora in a team meeting one time said, guys, I know you're hurting. I know you're beat up. We played an 18-game season and three preseason games, 18 games, and 3 postseason games. So we played a lot of football. He goes, I know you're hurting. He goes, but let me tell you something. Play this game as long as you can, because when it's over, it's over. And he was right. It was a sobering thing. I was 30 years old and decided to retire versus taking a pay cut to go back to the NFL. And it was a sobering thing to leave the game. So being a football player is special. I think nobody knows that better than the coach's kid.
All right, we got a break to take now. We have Monday Night Football coming up. If somebody told you Week 14, Packers and the Rams would be basically a meaningless game, well, that's what the NFL is, not for long. A lot of strange things happened yesterday. If you left your TV at halftime Saturday when the Colts were up and the Vikings 33-0 and went to Lapland in Finland and are just getting back now and turning on your computer, oops. We'll talk about that. The New England Patriots book, Lateraling at the Wire, the ins and outs of professional football. Oops. A lot of stuff in the NFL to get to yesterday. We'll talk about it all when the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff rolls on with Ken Dunek and our co-host Paul Domowitch. Following this, stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City at 12th and Market Streets has it all. Great food takes center stage with dine-in and pickup available. Their burgers are so famous, they have their own chauffeurs. So order delivery and catering too. So if you're celebrating or just getting the band together, Hard Rock Cafe's got your back. For more info, hit up hardrockcafe.com.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Don't hang out alone in the man cave this football season. Hang out at Cheerleaders with sexy entertainers, $4 Miller Lights, Jameson specials, and awesome game day prizes during all Sunday and Monday football games. Stop in before, during, or after the game to see your favorite entertainers and your chance to win an awesome game day prize. The most epic game day experience is at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, where champions play. Open daily from noon until 2 a.m.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
All right, back with the Monday Night Kickoff. Having a blast tonight with Paul Domowitch and Ken Dunek. And anybody who watched yesterday after that great World Cup final had a blast watching the NFL. You had walk-off interceptions, pick sixes, a Viking game on Saturday defied belief. A game yesterday where New England, Jacoby Myers might have made the dumbest play in NFL history, lateraling it for no reason. If Mac Jones catches that, what does he do with it? Ken, you never know in the NFL. Just a wacky Sunday, huh?
Well, I mean, that particular play is crazy, and you wouldn't expect it from a Bill Belichick coach team, right? I mean, he's the king of situational football, and that's just a brain cramp.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. He said after the game when asked about it, an Andy Reid line, we could have done a better job situationally. Maybe the understatement of the century, huh?
Yeah. Well, I know he had a press conference then. He addressed that. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but yeah, you know, the whole. Hey, listen, an NFL team is up 33-0 in the second half and loses the game. And by the way, it's the second time Matt Ryan has coughed up a major league. Of course, it was in the Super Bowl several years ago. So, you know, that's something that's probably going to haunt him for the remainder of his career. But yeah, all the great finishes, the pick six for Jacksonville, obviously Doug Peterson doing the Eagles and Eagles fans a favor. So he's still pretty popular in the city.
Domo, Matt Ryan didn't let the defense score. I mean, Matt Ryan put the scoreboard up, and then the coaches blew it in the Super Bowl. Obviously, what happened Saturday? How do you lose a 33-0 lead? How much was the players? How much was the coaches? How much was karma? And how much is that happens once in a while, no matter what? It was the biggest comeback ever.
You go back 2 weeks, we saw a hint of what happened yesterday in that fourth quarter of the Dallas-Indianapolis game when Dallas scored 33 unanswered points on them. I mean, you saw a team just roll over and call it quits. And yesterday, you know, I mean, part of it's Jeff Saturday. I mean, Jeff's shouldn't have left. He should have said no when they came up with this idea of having him coach. I don't know that it would matter, though. I mean, they just, you know, that defense yesterday, I couldn't believe, you know, the tackling was awful. I thought I was watching, you know, I've watched the University of Oklahoma play a lot because that's where my wife went to school. And some of their defenses, I mean, these guys can't tackle to save their lives. And that's what I thought I was watching yesterday. I mean, it was just awful with the Colts in that second half. And Jeff Saturday made some poor decisions. So, you know, combine the two with the fact that this team just doesn't care anymore. You know, and that's what you get.
Ken, shouldn't a team on a Saturday when they're ahead 33-0 at halftime win a game, especially when their head coach's name is Saturday?
I was going to say, how does Saturday lose on Saturday? I mean, that makes no sense to me. But you know, when you get in those situations, and I've been in games similar to that, you really rely on the leaders of the team, whether it's a Chuck Fusino with the Stars or a Sam Mills linebacker with the Stars, or your coach Jim Mora. Somebody's got to step up and say, "Hey, this is not going to happen," and you almost will yourself to win. And sorry, I lost my earpiece here.
Yeah.
All right, Don, we'll have technical difficulties with Ken for a second. Ken talked about Sam Mills. While Ken gets back and technically situated, Nakobe Dean, undersized. Sam Mills, a little bit more undersized. Sam Mills became a Hall of Fame linebacker. Size, again, doesn't matter if you see the heart inside. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go ahead.
You got Ken back? All right, sorry.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just think that character shows up at certain times. And I mentioned Chuck Fusina and Sam Mills because, you know, a lot like Dick Vermeil, I put them in the same category of character. Those two guys really walk the walk. And I just think when a team gets in that situation, you rely on people like that to pull you out of it. And again, it just seems I like Matt Ryan. He's a local kid. He's had some success in his career. But for that to happen twice like that on a very big stage, obviously the biggest stage is the Super Bowl, but of course he was the only game on Saturday at that time, so everybody was watching the game. That's a tough pill to swallow. And I agree with Paul. I think it was more the defense's fault than Matt. But again, the offense really stopped making plays down the stretch too.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. You got a Minnesota team that was down 33-0. There was some speculation on what Kevin O'Connell would say to that team at halftime. Whatever it was, obviously it worked. I would love to hear some of the excerpts from those 14 minutes in the locker room.
Well, I'm going to make a statement here and have you guys react to it. Bill Parcells famously said once, "You are what your record says you are." And 99% of the time, I think that's true. But the Minnesota Vikings, and I said this to Rich Gannon on our show a couple weeks ago, Damo, are phony. They're 11-3. Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs, but they're no threat to anybody. You got to take them seriously if you're playing them. But I don't think Minnesota Vikings, who keep winning by one score, who've gotten destroyed by the Cowboys at home, who were destroyed in the first half by a terrible Colts team at home, I don't think the Vikings are any threat whatsoever other than the fact that they're in the playoffs to win the Super Bowl and go anywhere this offseason or this postseason. What do you think?
I sort of agree. They've got a lot of talent, but they have yet to beat anybody. They don't have many quality wins. The Eagles took care of them pretty easily early in the season. They're, in my mind, in the NFC right now. It's the Eagles in San Francisco and maybe Dallas number 3. But if you ask me who's going to be in the NFC Championship game right now, I would say the Eagles in San Francisco, certainly not Minnesota.
Yeah, Ken, for your Christmas presents, and hopefully you get some nice stocking stuffers, have a great holiday. I'm guessing there's not going to be a book called Kirk Cousins, Big Moments in Football. Why are certain guys unable to do it under pressure? Other guys are. Some guys can play great when the lights are low, and when the lights come up, they go the other way. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but in general, what makes a pressure player?
Well, I tell you, that's a great question. And if I knew, my career probably would have been a little bit longer. But I can tell you, when I played basketball, I was pretty ordinary. But when the lights went on, somehow it invigorated me to the point where I was a very good player at a pretty high level. So it's hard to say. I will say this. Anybody that's got the firepower that a Minnesota Vikings has on offense has to be taken seriously. And you guys have to remember, turnovers are the biggest equalizer in the history of the game. The Eagles struggled yesterday. They had 3 turnovers. They let a mediocre team almost steal a win from them. So Minnesota scores some points. Their opponent drops the ball a few times. Really, they're certainly capable of being anybody. So I agree with you. I don't think that they're the team to fear in the NFC East, but I do in the NFC rather. But I do think they're a capable opponent.
All right, well, let's address the 10,000-pound elephant on the block now. The Cowboys game, Christmas Eve. It's all there, Damo. The division title to be won. Obviously, no Jalen Hurts. Dak Prescott back for them. Michael Parsons' comments. Everybody that plays for Dallas. I think San Francisco also is the biggest roadblock to the Eagles, although I'm not going to buy in to Brock Purdy being Tom Brady quite yet. When you look at the game Saturday, Dallas is 6-point favorite. Gardner Minshew coming in. What do you see?
You know what? I'm going to go a step further. Than Ken. Ken said he'd take the Eagles and the points. I'm going to take the Eagles. Just flat out as a winner. I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to we're going to see them run it 30+ times. And they're going to have some success because they had success against them last time. Their pass rush right now, I think, is going to cause some major problems for Dak Prescott. Right now, they're racking up sacks at a pace that,
with 4 rushing or 5 rushing without blitzing, really, which is the ultimate. What?
And they're doing it. You look at their sacks. They've got, I think they're up to 55 right now. 30 of them are on 3rd down, which is when you want them. When the pressure's on and you need to stop a team. So I think they're going to win this game Saturday. I keep saying Saturday.
Ken, most Eagle fans, most people who played for the Eagles. I'm not from Philadelphia. I'm from Washington. Been here 40 years. I've developed, and I had it already, obviously, having been in Washington, a hatred or a severe dislike. If you hate Osama bin Laden, you have a severe dislike of the Cowboys or anything else around the NFL. In your opinion, are the Cowboys the Eagles' biggest rival? Because to me, it's the Giants by this much, but I can't stand them or the Cowboys. What's your feeling toward Dallas? Not the city.
Well, remember, I go back to 1980, where probably the biggest win in recent history back then was the Eagles' win over Dallas at home, and everything was focused on. Everything was focused on the biggest win at that time.
Okay.
The Eagles beating Dallas in the NFC Championship game. But everything was focused on Dallas, and Dallas was a focal point of Coach Vermeil. Coach Vermeil really thought that beating Dallas was the stepping stone, becoming a championship team. And the problem with that 1980 team, and if you ask Coach, you talk to him all the time, I'm sure, is that he couldn't or wouldn't take his foot off the gas. So there was very little left in the tank by the time we got to the Super Bowl. That was his way. Nobody blames him for it. If he hadn't been like that, we wouldn't have gotten to the Super Bowl. But it was just unfortunate that we were spent by the time the Super Bowl came around. We played obviously our worst game of the year, but it was all Dallas back then for sure.
Well, obviously it's all Dallas now too. We love Dallas week. Eagles beat them earlier this year, of course, without Dak Prescott. We'll see this week. Eagles also have a first-round draft pick next year. They may be the best team in football this year. Could have a top 5 pick. That took a little bit of a bolt yesterday. We'll talk about the playoff picture, the Eagles and the Saints, who play later on, potential draft pick, and much, much more as we close up with Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. Final segment following this. Stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. Great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering, or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See Spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And thank you so much, Matt Miro, back here at the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff, final Zoom segment of the season. Back at the Hard Rock next Monday. Mr. Domowitch has a question for Mr. Dunek. Domo, time's yours.
Yeah, Ken, last 15, 20 years have not been the golden era of print publications, as I know firsthand from working for a newspaper that's had about 17 ownership changes over that period, and a couple that have declared bankruptcy. You've survived in a very unique way. Talk about, what you tell me about how you've done it with your magazines. You have a new one now, the Miami Man,
Right.
which is your third. So you're expanding. And what's been the key there, and the unique setup you have?
Yeah, I mean, we developed a magazine for men's interest because we felt most of the magazines in the area were written with a feminine slant to them. So we thought that we would be unique enough to have a chance. Now, I was ignorance on fire when I got into the thing. If I had studied the analytics like a lot of these coaches, I probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger on the deal. And the first couple of years were rough. We realized that how hard it is just to sell print advertising. So we would have these small parties and invite potential advertisers to come to the parties, and hopefully they would buy print advertising. The next day they would call me and say, I love the parties, but we just don't want to do print. It's not in the budget. So we didn't want to walk away from those people. So we developed a club atmosphere we call Legacy Club. So you get invited to these private parties once or twice a month. And it was a huge success. We got 100 members right off the bat. That alleviated some of the stress of, printing and mailing the magazine. The pandemic made us backtrack with our distribution. So now we're mostly a digital magazine, and we do print promotional copies for our subscribers, advertisers, and we hand those out at events. So we're saving money in that regard now. And it was working so well here in Philadelphia that a couple of years ago we developed a franchise company. We sold a franchise to Boston that's owned and operated by its own group. The Miami franchise, we took it back over about a year ago. We're running that locally, remotely, I should say, here until somebody else in Miami takes that over. So I have to go down to Fort Lauderdale, Miami once a month. I know you guys are feeling really sorry for me about that, but it's just part of the job.
Well, Ken, I mean, my source information isn't always correct, but I think it is here. Not calling you a mogul, but I did hear from, I can't say who I heard it from, that Jeff Bezos called you Saturday to borrow some money. Is that true?
Listen, if I'm a mogul, I might show all the characteristics except for the bank account. So you can call me what you want.
Well, best of luck. Continued success with all the magazines and everything in your career. Damo, you write a little bit as well. For the 33rdteam.com, great football website. You publish your power rankings every week. Anything changed in your top 5 yesterday?
None in the top 4. The Cowboys slid out of the top 5 with their loss.
Did they lose? They lost to Jacksonville? Wow.
Can you believe it? Couple teams on that are rising that are I think are fun to watch. One's Jacksonville, obviously, who we saw beat the Cowboys. The other's the Chargers. I mean, they were, people gave them up for dead about 2 months ago when they didn't have Keenan Allen. They didn't have Mike Williams, their 2 receivers. They're back healthy now, and Justin Herbert's playing well. And, they're going to probably make the playoffs, and they could cause some damage when they get in the playoffs.
We never hear about this team. I've been talking about them since day one. On Twitter, Ken, you might have seen this. I mean, they're a good football team. Love their coach. They could use more talent. But how about the Lions? I thought they'd give the Eagles a fight in game 1. They play hard for Dan Campbell, who's very unorthodox. What about the Lions, Damo? I mean, obviously not top 5, but are they a threat to anybody?
They moved into my top 10. They're 9 with a losing, a 500 record right now. They've won. They lost 6 of their first 7, and they've won 6 of their last 7. So, this is a team that's dangerous. Jared Goff's having a solid season. They can run the ball. Don't have a great defense, but they're winning games right now, and they're beating teams that are, that aren't pushovers. So they're a team to be reckoned with. And it's funny. I mean, Dan Campbell made so many admirers with his, with their appearance on the NFL.
Hard Knocks.
Yeah, on Hard Knocks this summer. It's just amazing how that guy has been embraced by much of America by his appearance on that.
Ken, Dan Campbell, a former tight end, his 1-6 team has a chance to be the first 1-6 team to ever get to the playoffs. An amazing story in Detroit. How would you characterize a team like that?
Well, I mean, Campbell's the guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and he also the players recognize that he cares as much or more than anybody in that building, right? So he's going to do whatever it takes to win football games. A little bit like Dick Vermeil, the players saw how hard Dick worked. Sleeping in his office, working till 2 or 3 in the morning, getting up for practice, and when your leader is a guy that will walk the walk like that, it really inspires the whole team. And listen, the way they're playing, the inspirational style of football they're playing, it wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs and actually made a run to the playoffs because they're doing everything right now. Hey, they talk about Goff as being a bum. He was the number one pick in the draft. He started in the Super Bowl. He can't be that bad.
All right, let me start with this to either of you guys. We never thought we'd talk about this at this time. If you had said this 6 years ago, somebody would have sent you to Dr. Phil. But right now, you can take a healthy Jared Goff or a healthy Carson Wentz for the next 5 years. I mean, is Carson Wentz even a possibility? I take Jared Goff like that. Damo?
No, don't it?
Yeah, same here. I mean, Carson Wentz, if he stays in this league for more than another year or two, it'll be as somebody's backup. I mean, his days as a starter are over. Jared Goff has turned into a very good quarterback.
Ken, you the same way?
Totally agree. Goff is the guy. Wentz will, if he does stay in the league, will be holding a clipboard somewhere. Nobody's going to give him another big contract or any more money. If he wants to stick around, he's got enough money to retire, obviously. But if he wants to stick around and be in the league for a few years at the backup, I could possibly see that. But his days as a franchise quarterback are over.
All right, final comment for final topic of the evening, guys. Officiating. I'm pretty well known at WIP for not getting on the officials. I know plenty of officials. They're going to make mistakes. They're human. There's replay. We can talk about that in any way you like. But yesterday, a couple game-defining calls made, and I haven't changed my stance for that. Ken, you played, obviously, the call in the Commanders game, 2 calls at the end. The one that bothered me more was not the pass interference, but the illegal procedure on the wide receiver for being 3.5 inches too far from the line of scrimmage. How does it destroy a team when an official gives the other team a game? How hard is it mentally to come back for that if it happened to you?
Well, not only that, but the receiver on that play was asking the referee if he was okay. And then normally the referees will move you up if you're not. And that guy chose to throw the flag. I was against replay. It's supposed to address egregious errors. Now they're looking at everything under a microscope. And I think it slows the game down. I do think if you're going to have replay, why not let's have a master ref in the booth that can see obvious mistakes and correct them? The Goddard play where he had the face mask a few weeks ago, we lost our tight end because of it. The guy wasn't penalized, but he was fined a day later. That doesn't do us any good. That was an obvious pass interference in that Washington game yesterday. If there's a mistake made on the field, let's have a ref in the booth pushing the red button, say, guys, you got that wrong. Let's correct the error. If you're going to have replay, let's do it that way.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with Ken. They've got to do something. I mean, the illegal procedure penalty was a case of that's when you see officials trying to have influence the game, and that's just inexcusable. The pass interference, you watch the Eagles game, they let them play on the outside. I mean, there was pushing, there was hand grabbing on both sides, offense, defense, but they let them play. But that call in the that non-call in the end zone of the Washington game, I mean, you cannot let that go. I mean, that had to be called. It wasn't. It's going to be interesting to see what Troy Vincent has to say about it later this week.
Either one of you guys, we got about a minute. Does it bother you when an official or Daryl Morey of the Sixers, when he goes back to PJ Tucker, guys who have played for his teams before, an official in this case, when they double down on their mistake after the game and say that was the right call? It bothers me when someone makes a mistake in life. It bothers me more when they won't admit it and double down afterwards. Your thoughts, guys?
Ken?
Well, I mean, from my standpoint, I mean, those errors were so obvious that I don't know how you could defend them. Another play that was in question yesterday was the Raiders touchdown. They didn't zoom in on the foot. It looked like it was on the white, and they never really gave you a great angle, and they upheld the touchdown. So, who's to know what's going on in the booth these days?
All righty, guys, we have run out of time. Ken Dunek, you've done a great job. We appreciate it. Good luck to you with all your magazines. Both of you guys, 30 seconds. Damo, anything to say about Christmas or the holidays for our listeners?
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas.
Ken?
Same here. You guys have me on and the Hard Rock closes and Jalen Hurts gets hurt. So I think I'm probably bad luck. You might not have me back on, but I appreciate you being on. I wish everybody listening and watching a Merry Christmas as well.
Well, we hope you're on next year as well. And Damo, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy New Year to everybody. We'll be back next Monday night from the Hard Rock with our guest Vaughn Hebron. Merry Christmas to Brianne O'Neill, who produced this show, and Keith Noonan, despite the fact that he's a Giant fan, for helping her out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Merry Christmas, everybody. For the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff, I'm Paul Jolovitz. For Paul Domowitch and Ken Dunek saying, have a great night, everybody.